Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We turn to cricket. On Sunday, West Indies women beat Pakistan by 6 wickets in the third and final T20 International at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in North Sound, Antigua to complete a series whitewash. After winning the toss and batting first, Pakistan women were dismissed for 102 from 19.4 overs, with Stephanie Taylor taking a hat-trick in her figures of 4 for 17. In reply, the Windies romped to 106 for 4, with Taylor top scoring with an unbeaten 43. Final scores: Pakistan women 102, West Indies women 106 for 4. Joining us now to recap the match and series is match commentator and managing director at VA Sports, Vernon Springer. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm fine, and I'm also even happier because, of course, our West Indies women giving us that whitewash victory. So I'm going to start by asking you about the overall performance of the West Indies women's senior team.
Well, first of all, let me kind of clear the air on behalf of Cricket West Indies in terms of a video that has been circulating worldwide, and just to let the folks know that Chanel Henry and Shady Nation are well and did not stay in the hospital, contrary to what you would have heard. And in fact, as you would know, Shady Nation also played in the game on Sunday in which the West Indies would have clean sweep Pakistan in that important series there. So there's been upbeat, there's been spirit. You know what it would be like, Maria. I'm sure you've played sports at some point in level. If something happens to one of your mates, then you tend to get a little shock in terms of what has been happening. But the team is in good spirit, and they're gearing up themselves and getting themselves ready for the 50-over competition. A little bit of concern for me, Mario, in terms of the batting. Nobody for the West Indies women team and for the Pakistan team even got past a half century. So that's like a major concern when you look around in terms of what you would see for the batting. The highest score being Keisha Knight with 69 runs, high score of 30, and then DeAndre Dartin with 62. Hayley Matthews didn't have a good tournament either. You know, the captain
high score of 32
with 59, 53. So when you look at Pakistan, you would see Aliyah Riaz with 54 runs, Nida Dar, who's the most experienced player, with 55. So the batting really didn't show up. In terms of partnerships, we only had 3 real major partnerships in the entire tournament. We had a 65-run opening partnership in the first game with DeAndre Dartin and Hayley Matthews. And then you clicked around and you looked around and you had a 69-run partnership between Aisha Nasheem and Fatima Sano, and that was for Pakistan. And then yesterday, we had partnerships between Keisha Knight and Taylor, 48, Nathan, Shady Nation, and Stephanie Taylor, 41. So those to me would be the only major concern. But the brilliance out of all of this would be Shamila Connell, who bowled at real pace and was named the player of the series with 5 wickets. You look at one of those big West Indian men fast bowlers who ran in and really hit the deck and gave the Pakistan a little bit of scare. So I think now the stage is set, but I think Courtney Walsh will be very, very, very much concerned about the batting of his team. You'd really want to see somebody be able to fire. I thought that we had good starts, and the game awareness and the game understanding to me was just a little problem.
Definitely. So Vernon, just to backtrack a bit, you did mention Shadeen and Chanel Henry, and of course I can understand why a lot of people are speculating, because based on what the public has known, a lot of people have been asking, you know, what really happened to the 2 players. All they know is that they fell to the ground, they were taken off the field. So can you just I know you cleared the air that they're okay, they're doing okay, but what really happened to them in that moment?
Well, everything happened so fast, Mario, that, you know, by the wink of the eye, you know, you're commentating, and when you look, you know, you saw Henry on the ground and you see most of the West Indian players rushing to wave into the dressing room in terms of what's happening. So because of the bubble situation, you know, it was hard for anybody to get to the area. But one have to give credit to the medical staff for Cricket West Indies and also for the folks who were there at the ambulance. I would think that Shady Nation maybe was in shock in terms of what's happening, because remember there was also a little break. So having to recapture yourself in terms of what's happening. In terms of what we've heard from the Cricket West Indies medical staff so far, they're still investigating some of the issues. So we don't have anything clear, but what we can say is that based on the spirit that we saw yesterday in terms of the warm-up with the 2 young ladies warming up, everything seems to be all right. I think if it was anything more than that, I don't think that even Nation would have been playing or Henry would have been even warm enough. So I give it credit to them, and I'm glad that they are fully recovered and ready to go.
Yeah, but Vernon, pardon me though, but I find this a little bit disconcerting though, because I can't imagine that we have two players who found themselves in that situation. We just saw an image of one of them being wheeled off. The wheels of the stretcher hit the bump, and then her body went into a spasm, and there not being an official statement to say, I understand protecting people's medical details and private details, no problem, but not something more cogent to give the cricketing-loving public and concerned West Indians an idea as to what happened to two of our women cricketers. The information out there is not enough, and that vortex creates the perfect conditions for rumor to spread.
Certainly, and as you know, that is something which is going to bash around. So I think that Cricket West Indies, as you rightly said, will or should make an official statement, maybe to just clear the air on the entire matter, and maybe just nullify that. That would make it going. I think there's a press conference tomorrow, George. So maybe that might come out of the press conference. A statement maybe might be made.
Definitely. And Vernon, I know you touched on, Hayley Matthews and Deandra Dottin. And of course, I am fully aware that our West Indies women did not play cricket. The last time they played was last year when they played England. But do you feel as if we didn't get to see the best of those two stars, Dottin in particular, and of course, Hayley Matthews?
We got swept in England 5-0. Mm-hmm. But I think under the new coach, Courtney Walsh, I would like to see the breakup. I think we have Dottin, Matthews, Taylor come in. I want to see us maybe have Hayley Matthews come at 3 if they feel that they want Dottin to be the opening batsman. Then I want to see somebody else, whether it is a Pashana Knight or Keisha Knight, maybe opening with Dottin. So you have a left and right combination. And then you have Hayley Matthews taking the time to look at the game to come in at 3. And then you can be able to dictate. And we're talking about the T20 game. You can't take chances by having Matthews, Dottin, and Taylor just going. Because if you end up in a situation where you're playing against the big ones and these 3 get knocked off, we saw what happened in England. Dottin scored the most runs. Nobody has really made anything else on the England tour. So I think Courtney Walsh and his coaching staff will have a lot of work to do. I know we'll want to see what is going to be the assessment and the game awareness going forward in the 50-over game for the West Indies in terms of whether they're going to continue that same ploy or not. For me, I would like to have it broken up. I would like to see Hayley Matthews back in a 3. If the consideration is to put that into open, no problem. But I don't want to see 1, 2, 3 coming down, because I find that when you go 1, 2, 3, then you almost have a gap in between. Shady Nation looks good. Yeah. But I think Shady Nation is still, to me, lacking a little bit of confidence. She's been around for some time. Right. And you have to feel that if you're the West Indies team, that you're there. So that, she's been around to know that, hey, I can get big scores. Yesterday, she could have got herself a nice little 30-40. And she got out at a point in time when she really did not need to. So let's hope that she will get better in the 50-over competition. But the bowling, it's holding its own, really. So we're going to see how they're going to get tested against Pakistan in the 50-over game. But I want to see more rotation of the strike. Too many dot balls. In the 20-over game, I think in one game we had 67. Just too many dot balls at all. I mean, we have to have some rotation of strike from over number 6 to over number 15. There needs to be better rotation of the strike taking place.
Definitely, Vernon. And of course, we will be connecting with you again. We're up on the clock. So thanks for all your, those solid points that you made. And we'll connect again as our West Indies women get set to face Pakistan in that 50-over tournament.
Well, the men are also under some problems. So Kyron Pollard losing the one-day series, and going now in the T20 series and going into another series. The team is going to have to be able to, buck up and get themselves going, because they're the talking point. But we'll have another discussion on the men's team on another day.
Definitely. Thank you again, of course, Vernon Springer, they are international cricket commentator. Well, unlike their female counterparts, the Windies men were on loser street, going down 3-2 to South Africa in their 5-game T20 series. George, this one is for you. Are you surprised that West Indies did not win the series?
No, because the objective is not to win a series like these. The objective is to fine-tune for a T20 World Cup that comes up in October.
But winning is a plus.
Yeah, but as I said last week when the 3 of us were together with the two of us were together with Lance, I said that there is nothing to suggest that if you win, and win, it will put you in a better stead of winning a tournament than if you were. I would say he's the only one who batted well, because my skipper would accept that a half century in one game of 5 does not represent batting well, and it does not. When you look, remember last week when we had a conversation with Fazir said to us that the strategy of that the Windies employed in the series was concerning to him.
Yeah.
The boundary hitting strategy, trying to blast their way to totals, whether in run chase or in setting the totals. And he didn't think that was good enough, because in one game that they lost, they ended up they ended up conceding 48 dot balls, 8 overs blocked out really. So they didn't get any productivity of those. When you look at the numbers for this series, the West Indies struck way more sixes than South Africa did. South Africa did about 23 sixes. Yeah. The West Indies struck 53. And if you do the math, if you aggregate the number of runs the Windies made and the South Africa made, sixes made up 17% of South Africa's aggregate number of runs in the 5 games. Guess how much the sixes accounted for in the Windies total? 40%. 40% of the Windies runs in the 5 games was in 60. So that the strategy was clear. Power hitting, it didn't work. There needs to be a variation for the big assignment in October is all I'm saying.
Definitely. The only positive is we have the top wicket taker, Dwayne Bravo, and of course we saw some signs from the youngsters, Obed McCoy, Kevin Sinclair, so we can build on that. We go to break, George. We'll be back.